For those of you who are faith-based people, this is a beautiful design straight from God to protect us from the dangers. Because you're walking on a trail with your 4 kids and you hear the sound of a rattlesnake.
Hey.
What number do you want to be?
I'm a 10.
You're 10 and out of there.
I'm out. You will see me run.
Welcome to the Brain Lady Podcast with your host, Karen D. Wood, the resident brainiac. Get ready for a mind-expanding journey as we unravel the mysteries of the brain from Notes from the Couch. Join us as we delve into the complexities and wonders of this enigmatic supercomputer. Fasten your mental seatbelts and prepare to have your synapses fired up. Welcome to the captivating world of the Brain Lady Podcast.
Hello, my name is Karen Wood. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and we are bringing you this podcast, the Brain Lady Podcast, Notes from the Couch. And we're going to invite you to kind of come into a session and to talk about something very cool somebody said in a session. Then we'll talk about what happened in the session. We'll introduce you some great brain things, and then some things you can apply to your own life. And this is Jermaine Jackson. He is our official co-host.
It is so good to be back with you, Wood. This is always such a great time to be here with the Brain Lady, with the neuron specialist. So I'm excited for us to kind of jump into today. I am excited to hear the note from the couch today, Wood.
So the note from the couch today is, drum roll for this quote, "My kids steal my scanner the most."
Was that my quote?
It should have been.
It should have been, because I got 4 of them and
4 little stealing scanners.
I get it. So let's jump into it, because this one sounds like a good one today.
My kids steal the scanner the most. So we're talking today about a mom, and she had 3 birth babies, and then she adopted 3 very challenging babies from very high trauma.
Sounds like a superwoman.
She is a superwoman, actually. But then what happened is she encountered in her life some very, very big things. So today we're going to talk about how is it that we can handle the big things and get through it, but somehow the little things just send us off into rocket space.
Yeah.
So what's a little thing that one of your kids does that can just send you whoop?
There's a bunch of them. So let's look at some of the little things. I would say my Carter. My Carter loves, he just finds things that he's not supposed to touch, things that he's not supposed to have. Say, for instance, the mail key. We couldn't check the mail for 2 weeks. Why? Because Carter took the key and we couldn't find it. So then I ended up finding the key in the playroom inside of a backpack. Wow,
that was amazing. You found it within 2 weeks.
It was a 2-week journey with no mail.
And you can hear that little one hit a lot of days.
Yeah, because every day I'm telling the kids, look for the key. Where is the key? And everyone blamed Carter. But we kind of knew it was Carter.
Our youngest was that way.
Carter's the one.
Yeah.
So that's one for me. It's a little thing, right?
Shout out to Parker. That was our Parker. Hi, Parker. So good. So we're going to call her Mom of Many because she has many. And then for those of you from the Valley, remember the Creek Fire a few years ago. It was a terrible fire up by Shaver Lake. It was hot. They called it an inferno.
Wow.
And it destroyed a lot of houses. Hers was one of them that was mostly destroyed. So her older kids went one place, and the 3 younger kids went with her and her husband and stayed for a year.
Wow.
In a friend's room, 1 room, mom, dad, 3 kids.
Wait, 5 people?
5 people in
one
room.
Bedroom in a house that's not yours.
Correct. For a year.
I'm going crazy.
And your animals are here and there, and your older kids are here and there. So that's when I first met her. That's when somebody said, you need to call Karen Wood.
Yeah.
Because she thought she was going a little insane. So we helped her with that big thing, how to handle that. We helped her with that. And then she moved back into her house.
Nice.
And back into the house. And contractor number 1, failure. Contractor number 2, failure. This happened a lot in this rebuilding of this community. And contractor number 3 helps them finish their house, get it back together. But he wouldn't finish it to the end, and that created a lot of trauma. So helped her get through that. So this whole time she's handling.
So did she come to you after all of this, or you're with her in the middle of contractor
through
1?
all of it?
Wow.
I was looking for houses for her. Anybody know a house to rent for this family?
Wow.
But all the houses were taken because everybody came down from the hill for houses.
Yeah.
So no houses. So she had to figure it out. So she figured out how to do this in this bedroom with these 3 little kids.
Mhm.
The 3 little kids actually loved it because they got this tight little space with their mom all the time.
Right. They got to sleep with mom
They
all the
loved
time. Right.
And then they transitioned back to the other house, get it going.
Mm-hmm.
And so now she's confused. This session was about why is it that I could have handled all those big things?
Mm-hmm.
And now that we're back in the house, we got the paint finally figured out. That was the issue.
Right.
And now she's feeling this impatience where these things are getting her all the time.
Yeah.
So in the session, we talked about this brain part called your amygdala.
Okay.
We've made a few references to it, but it's right behind your eyes, right behind your ears.
Mm-hmm.
And it is this part that does alert in the brain. It tells the brain all the F's.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite one that we can't say here, and then all the other F's. The fight, fright, freeze, flight, fawn, all of them. And in future podcasts, we're going to have a podcast for each one of those, what happens in the brain for each one of those. Mm-hmm. So she was trying to figure out what was happening with her flying off the handle with these kids. So her amygdala, probably in response to all the trauma, actually got swollen because the amygdala swells in trauma. So now after this 3 years of all this trauma
mm-hmm.
and all of her childhood trauma, she comes from real. So now she is hyper reactive to things.
Right.
So we talk about this reactive scale. When I say the reactive scale, what do you think of?
I think of 0 to 10. That reactive scale was 0 is I'm having a great day. 0 means the day is perfect. 10, I'm ready to punch somebody in the face.
10 is your worst.
10
right?
is a bad day. Is a bad moment. Not even really a bad day because your 10 can be a bad moment. And if you know how to recover from those times, you can not let it take over your entire day. And I think tuning into this podcast, you'll kind of learn some of those things of how when things kind of fly off the radar, you can kind of bring it back in and not allow it to ruin your entire day.
Right. And because what we helped her realize is that her body was giving her all the clues. And that's what you can learn to practice.
Mm-hmm.
What does a 3 feel like? What does a 4 feel like?
Right.
What is, okay, marital confessions. I know I'm getting ticked at Russell when I lean forward and I point
not
and my
finger.
eyebrows are at this finger.
Not the finger.
This, yes. Index finger.
No.
And I'm leaning forward and my eyebrows go up. I know that's my 8.
Okay.
Because my body is telling me my amygdala is cranking out because it's all related to next door, the hippocampus, right?
Yeah.
So if you hold up your finger and your thumb and
hang loose
like that, and like the nail beds are the amygdala, and then the hippocampus is that tube right behind it that replays all the memories.
Right.
So my memories are saying this marital discussion is not going to go. It's not going to go well. That's what history says, right?
Yeah.
So that's the defense mechanism. But if I can recognize that, talk to my eyebrows, move my shoulders. We're going to say this a lot. Take an exhale.
Important.
So that's what we helped her realize in the session was actually talk about, hey, what are the things your kids did that you can actually categorize like boxes?
Right. Yeah.
And what's your number of reactivity? Because the important thing to know about that reactive scale is called the set point of reactivity. It's where your mind is going to take you every time. So
like every time that situation comes up?
Yes. You're going to start there. So you can hear it in your mailbox key story.
Right.
By day 7, what number were you getting to when you were thinking about that mailbox key, right?
We were up there because,
you were up there.
You know why? I was waiting for my tax papers to come in. We got to get some money.
Get some money going.
We got to get some money. I was waiting for those tax papers, but day 1 or 2, I was, boys, find the keys, go to the playroom. Day 4 or 5, boys, find the keys. Day 7 or 8, boys. You know, I was getting a little more upset, but we ended up finding the keys.
Now, here's the interesting question about the keys.
Okay.
And this is what I talked to her about. If someone just says the word mail key to you, what number are you to go to in your soul now?
I already get a little upset.
Isn't that interesting?
And I know where the key is.
But the mind doesn't remember that, right? So that's what another thing we talked about in session with her is with all these things that the kids do, how do we take our deep breath and our exhale to tell the past brain, we're not there. We're here right now.
Let me ask you this, Wood. I have a situation and say I'm a 4.
Right.
That next time that situation comes up, say I go to a 6. Is my brain going to remember the 4 or my brain's going to remember the 6?
Well, let's ask which number is going to protect you more if that situation comes up again? Is the 4 going to protect you the most, or is the 6 going to protect you the most?
Probably the 6 because I'm more alert or more. Is it the 6?
It's the 6. And it's actually a beautiful design. For those of you who are faith-based people, this is a beautiful design straight from God to protect us from the dangers. Because you're walking on a trail with your 4 kids and you hear the sound of a rattlesnake.
Hey.
What number do you want to be? I'm
a 10.
You're 10 and out of there.
I'm out. You will see me run.
And you're going to take your babies and they're going to pick them up. You're going to get. So it's a beautiful design to protect us from danger.
Okay.
But we live 2 fast-paced lives and we don't calm down enough. And so we stay at that danger state. People of trauma, which this mom of many story we're talking about today, she had so many dangers for so many years in just this situation with the fire. And then there was all the dangers before, and then dealing with all her adoptive babies with all their dangers.
Right.
So notice the tension. That's one of our clear thinking first identifiers. Notice the tension. You heard me, my marital confession about the 8. Ooh, that is a noticed tension.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to move around a little bit. And so for her to identify for each of these little things that became tensions, what was the body response that she could notice the tension to identify it and recognize it. And so we really practiced that for each of them. What does a 4 look like? What does a 5 look like? What does a 6 look like? And so then we're trying to say, if we can recognize those, then take a breath, then we can have our now brain available instead of that amygdala thinking I'm in danger and bringing back to the 6.
Yeah.
But if I've been through a lot and my amygdala keeps me at a 9 all of the time.
So what you said something I think that was kind of important. It stood out to me. You said your now brain. Which that you're in the moment now, but many times your brain's going to take you back to what it was or how it was or when it happened. So then how do we stay in this now brain?
So let me just back up to the rattlesnake a second. How did you know that the rattlesnake was dangerous?
Because history tells me rattlesnakes.
That was your past brain. And that was very important. You have that bit of information. So sometimes it's very important, but it's a really good question. And that's one of the things we talked about with the mom of many. Yeah. How do we stay in the now? Because she's got 6 to 8 people. They often have neighbors, relatives. So she might have 10 people who are needing her attention.
Right.
That's a lot of nows. And so how do you stay in the now?
Yeah.
Well, part of it is learning what of my body tells me I'm responding to the past, right? Me pointing at Russell, that is, thank you, past brain. So if we can learn that, you in the mailbox key, right?
Yeah.
One of the ways we can tell we're staying in the past is a really helpful tool is to catch your complaint.
Okay.
Because if you go back to you in the mailbox, what is one of your first complaints if you can't find that mailbox key? What does your complaint sound like?
Angry, frustrated, upset.
And it has certain phrases. Here we go again. I can't believe this is happening. What is wrong with you people?
Yeah.
So that's one of our clues that we're in the past is our complaint.
So you're saying the way we phrase the actual wording, what we're saying. So what are some of those things like?
Well, what tells us we're in the past? Here we go again. That is definitely a past phrase.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And the way we stay in the now is to reframe that. Just say almost the same words, but our acceptance phrase of the fact is, here we go again. Fact is, here we go again.
The fact is.
Because that invites that amygdala to stop pumping the F chemicals and the chemicals to go up to the frontal lobe to say, how am I going to solve this problem?
So then a phrase of, you always do this.
Yes, that's a past brain. That's the past brain.
This always happens. That's
now, how do you turn that into a now phrase? Same phrase,
right?
Same situation. How do I make it a now phrase? And that's where that acceptance fact is. So, mom of many learned how to, in her mind, say, fact is this one's throwing a fit. This one needs more attention. This one should go out to her horse. This one hasn't fed her horse.
Did you say go out to the horse?
Yeah, they live in a ranch.
Wow. You said go out, not the horses.
Not the horses. But she's got 10, 12 people in the house.
Right.
If she can go to her fact brain, get this organized, because she's very organized.
So then, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What does that do for our brain? Like for us to be able to just tell ourselves, the fact is, da-da-da-da-da is going on versus this always goes on. Is it a chemical thing that's happening in our brain?
It's in all kinds of things.
Okay.
So let's go geography of the brain first. We've got that middle of the brain called the limbic system.
Okay.
So I'm holding up my hand. There's my pinky and my thumb to say fingernails are my amygdala, right behind my eyes, right behind my ears.
Got it.
Right next door is that hippocampal tube. Right next door. And that's where the memories replay. And what we're doing is, instead of being in the middle of our brain, we're saying to the top of our brain, whether we're going to use the parietal lobe on the top or occipital lobe in the back to make pictures of what would I look like if I could do this, or inviting the oxygen to the frontal lobe. So it's neurons, it's oxygen, it is brain tissue, gray matter, glial cells, all kinds of things, to say, hey, how do I get to where I can handle this situation right now?
And all that, just our brains are just designed to do that, which is amazing. This is why I always say language shapes behavior and behavior shapes culture, right? So the things that we are saying is so important, because it sounds like our brains are just designed to kind of react based on what's coming out of our mouth for the most part.
And it's mostly habit. Remember that phrase we're talking about with the mom of many in this session is, what's my habit of reactivity when a little things happens?
So her biggest question to you sounds like, I dealt with all of these macro problems,
right?
All of the house burning down and the this and the that. But yet, when my kids spill milk, I lose my mind. They
steal my scanner. And the reason that's important is one of the amygdalic functions. So holding up my hand again, right? There's your two amygdalas, left, right. They both have different functions. Its job is to scan for danger in every situation. You can really feel it when you're driving. You're looking behind you. You're looking around you. You're constantly checking what's the danger, offensive, defensive, right? That's your amygdala doing that scanning.
Yeah.
You can feel it when you're walking on a path with all your kids. Where are your 4 kids? That takes a lot of scanning.
So is it because of all of the trauma, now spilt milk becomes a danger?
Yes, because when the amygdala gets swollen, and I live in such a state of trauma all the time, my amygdalic limbic function can't immediately measure how big the danger is. Wow. It just knows this has been a big danger.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's a big wow, because when we're dealing with people of trauma, to know that their huge reaction is just a swollen amygdala. I wish I'd known this raising kids.
Yeah.
Guys, when Parker was spilling milk all the time, and it became such a big issue for me.
Right.
I remember the day I stood up straight, even though I didn't know this. There was something about standing up straight.
Right.
Why don't I get the kid a sippy cup? Well, because he's 5. Get the kid a sippy cup.
Right.
He's just an impulsive, marvelous, wonderful human being. And so, right. But the point is, with the mom of many, because she had been through all those big things, then her amygdalic brain structure, the other thing to know about the amygdalic brain structure right next to the hippocampus is, so the amygdala swells in trauma and the memories don't know how to get set because the hippocampus kind of starts shutting down. It's got too many big memories. So we have to specifically tell it, we're safe, we're not in danger.
So when your amygdala swells, like, I mean, I know it's completely different, but how do you, can it shrink? Like, I know if I get a bump, I put some ice on it, it goes down. How do we get our amygdala to shrink? Is that a thing?
It's a big thing.
Okay.
Honey, I shrunk the kids. Honey, I shrunk my amygdalas. It really is us knowing when the thing is happening. When is our amygdala trying to protect us? And how can we use our thinking brain, our body brain, our picture brain, the top cortical brain, to tell the inside brain, hey, actually, I'm not in danger right now. And then can I invite my body in with that parasympathetic system to say, deep breath, slow exhale.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in danger right now. But that's a trick when you've got how many kids wanting dinner, need to feed how many animals, husband's coming home, he wants to get all these things done. So her amygdala was taking care of a lot of other people. So that's what we did in the session, was just really help her figure out how to notice what kid action was setting off what danger.
So what were those tips, the things? What was the clear thinking moment that you were able to kind of help her with? To kind of.
So do you want to hear about the brain or the body or the behavior first?
Let's go body.
So body.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, notice the tension.
Okay.
That amygdala is sending all those F chemicals right down your spine to get you ready to take care of the danger. If I can notice that and then invite the body, parasympathetic system, sometimes it might just be standing up straight and taking a good exhale. That one is just amazing.
Right.
What that one does.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I might just fan my fingers slowly, wiggle my eyebrows, whatever I can say to the brain, hey, this is irritating, but I'm not really in danger.
So what is that? What is that doing for me? I'm wiggling my fingers when I'm frustrated.
Well, what happens when you get ticked? What do? You
ball them. You ready to ball them up?
It's a defense mechanism, right?
Right.
And so what we're doing is the opposite of where the defense is showing up. So that's the first thing I helped her figure out. Eyebrows, tone of voice. What does the tone of voice tell us about what that amygdala is doing when you're dealing with all your kids? Whoop, there it goes. Oh, can I pull that tone down? So that's the body thing. Now brain or behavior?
Behavior.
So behavior is, how can I tell my brain I'm not in danger by my thinking sequence?
Okay.
So that's that clear thinking method. We practice this a lot. Notice the tension. So we've talked about that with the body. Step number 2, look, what's going to be the outcome of this if I keep staying this upset about a kid not setting the table fast enough? What's going to happen if I get this mad at this kid not setting the table fast, this kid because she didn't feed her horse, and this kid because the room's not clean? Ooh, what is that picture going to be? So that's one of the behavior steps, is to look at the not good of where this is going to go, because then the brain's going to pay more attention. Just like saying to you, hey, what's the outcome of the picture if I walk toward that rattlesnake?
You're going to get bit.
Your brain's like, okay, let's not do that.
Right.
And so then step number 3 is very much the same as step number 2. What's the outcome of the picture? Let me look at it with acceptance. So that's where we kind of talked before about what acceptance means. Doesn't mean the thing is good, right, kind, lovely, or true.
Nope.
But it does mean I want my best brain.
Yeah.
So what would I look like having my best brain available, helping everybody get ready for dinner? So we're talking about the behavior thing of how we help this mom of many. Notice the tension, number 1. Notice the tension. Notice the tension. And then number 2, use your occipital brain. Get those pictures moving. What's the outcome of the picture if I don't get this thing, whether it's a big thing or a little thing? And then what's the outcome of the picture with acceptance? And the pictures are wonderful because they work so much faster than words. So what do you look like handling everybody, getting everybody ready for dinner? So then I don't have to go, I need to tell her to do this and this and this. I can just say, kabam, I would look like this and everybody would see I'm the captain of this ship and we would get dinner on the table, right? And then the 4th one tells us if our amygdala is listening or not. Step number 4, notice the tension. If the tension's coming down, if my shoulders aren't as tight, if my eyebrows aren't up, right? Then that tells me that the amygdala is not fighting to pump those F chemicals in me anymore.
Right.
So it's kind of a self-check. And then in another podcast, we'll talk about what to do if I'm landing even worse and the number's even higher at that point. Well, then we're just going to go and fish hook and start another box because there's another danger.
Right. So it's these 4 steps, right? Notice, look, notice. And if we can understand those more, that's what can help us kind of not allow the 6 to go to a 7, to go to an 8, to go to the whole day now is ruined. But we can first just notice how I'm reacting.
And as we practice that more, the pictures, it happens so fast, and then it starts to be subconscious.
Right.
And that's when it really is sweet. We call it going global, where the whole mind is really paying attention to that and believing it, right?
We're going global.
We're going global. And sometimes it'll work. And then the next time, dag nabbit, it does not.
Doesn't. Yeah.
Well, then we just have to work. It's probably a different kind of danger, or it's a different F. It might, instead of be fighting mad, that kid's not doing that. I might just be really tired and my brain is flighting out. And the mom of many had been through a lot of trauma. So her brain would just completely check out. She'd go into that fawn state of being completely checked out.
Now, do you know if there was a lot of trauma before even all this have happened? Did she kind of grow up with trauma? Childhood trauma. So her amygdala has probably been swollen for a long time.
It's a mess.
Okay.
And then she hit all these other big traumas of the Creek fire, and then living with someone else, and then confused why these little things were throwing her. But there's a really good neurological reason for that, because the brain doesn't know the difference if the contractor's not doing that thing or if my kid's not setting the table. It just knows this has been a distressing thing.
So what I would like us to do, Wood, is those 4 steps that we talked about, that notice, look, notice, that you worked and used with so many of your clients. Can we kind of walk through those really quickly, but kind of just define them a little bit more so the viewers and everyone listening can kind of understand what that looks like, and then they can maybe even think about something that they may have going on.
Absolutely. So remember how we talk about taking attention and kind of putting it in a box, whether it's writing a box or what I call air boxes. We're isolating the one tension.
That one problem, right? That one thing.
Part of the problem with the littles is there's often other big stuff going on. And then that little thing's getting the attention. Okay. So let's come up with an example of a little in the mom of many's life. Okay, so one of her troubled girls is about to have a meltdown.
Okay.
We've got dinner going and we see a meltdown coming. Right now it looks little, but we see it coming. So step number 1, notice the tension. So the mama realized that she would be darting, looking at that kid over and over again, like waiting for this thing to hit, right? And she noticed she wasn't breathing well, and that was getting like 90% of her focus. So that's notice the tension. Where is this thing showing up on your actual physical body? Or in the mind, when is it becoming overwhelming? So that's why it's important to notice the tension. Okay. And then step number 2, look, what's the outcome of the picture without acceptance? Well, that's a complicated one with this meltdown, baby, because those meltdowns are so big. So without acceptance, this could go so many different directions. So that's why step number 3 is helpful, because it gives her options. What's the outcome of the picture with acceptance? That I've got dinner going, that I can now have energy to spend on her. And it opens up that frontal lobe to give you more options.
Right. Okay.
And then step number 4, notice the tension. Was she still doing all that darting? Was her breathing short? She could realize, no, she got this. She's got this. And so then her brain was believing her. But what the 4 steps do is invite us to use our whole brain instead of just the reactive middle brain, right?
Right, because you're creating pictures and you're looking at what you look like, upset or angry or not. What could it look like if you just breathe?
Right.
So you're opening up your brain. And
sometimes step number 3, what's the outcome of the picture with acceptance, can be a completely pretend picture. Because the mind, it's just so overwhelming, even in the little things, right? How am I going to pull that off today? Well, pretend picture. What would I look like if I could? So if you're thinking of this, a box, so we found Mama Many's box, try to put something going on in your life as if it's in a box, even write it down on a piece of paper.
Right.
And then just put those 4 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what's the tension? Where's this going to go? What would I look like if I could do this?
Yeah.
And then if you take a good breath and a weird shift, then you can kind of smile at yourself. Your amygdala is believing you in a brand new way, which is what you want, because you want your brain and body to come into this new partnership, right?
And I think that's so amazing because we can, like you said, these pretend pictures. And I always say, many times we need to see ourselves in the position we want to be in versus the position we're actually in. And not to say that the problem's going to go away, not to say that magically everything is going to be changed, but for us to be able to create these positive pictures and these positive outcomes, what it does is it's going to allow our brains to gradually navigate towards more positive things if that's what we're outputting. So I think it's really important for us, for our viewers, like to understand these 4 steps are so important. Notice, look, notice. Notice, look, notice. We will say it over and over again because that's what the clear thinking method is. Like that's what this whole notes from the couch, the brain lady has come from understanding, teaching individuals what these 4 steps can really do because they're powerful.
They're really powerful. And we'll talk in other sessions how you can apply that to people of different ages and different situations. So today we talked about this precious mama of many, who was in a lot of really big things. And then when the big things settled down, she couldn't figure out why the little things were snagging her. So we kind of looked over what the brain things were, that poor amygdala, and then all the memories of the past things. Mm-hmm. Then we looked at the behavior thing of how to use the 4 steps to just tell the brain, I got this. And then we looked at the body thing of get those shoulders moving, get that exhale going, because the more we can get our brain and body in sync, then the more we can get a new balance so that her set point of reactivity is only going to be a 3 when somebody hasn't set the table, or a 3 or 4 when she sees the little having trouble, right? Yeah. So that's the trick.
That is so good. Wood, thank you so much for just another note from the couch. I love to be able just to come into your office, to come into your brain, into your session, because it's really helpful. It's been helpful for me. I know it's going to be helpful for all of our viewers. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I just want to remind you, make sure you are subscribed to our channel. Make sure you are on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify. And I just want to thank you guys again for joining us.
And don't forget, sit up straight, take your good exhale.
Thank you, Wood.